Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
I'm standing here at Hemp Fest in Seattle with Keith Stropp, the founder of Normal. And thank you for that. And what do you think of this event?
It's my favorite event of the year. I travel around and do a number of these kinds of things, but there's nothing on the scale of the Seattle Hemp Fest other than the Seattle Hemp Fest. So for those who haven't seen it, it is incredibly empowering. And I think 12, 13 years now I've been coming in. I find it fascinating, and I think people in other parts of the country are beginning to pick up on that same phenomena. And the Boston Freedom Fest is coming up in the month, and that's a wonderful thing on the Boston Common with all the history associated with that. And in the Portland Hemp Sock, and that's about the middle of next month as well. I was there last year.
So 12th and 13th of September.
12th and 13th of September. If you're in the region at all and you identify with marijuana smokers or marijuana smoking, for Christ's sake, come to this thing. You will find lots of people that are like-minded individuals like you. And as I say, you'll feel empowered by it.
This is peace, love, and understanding that we're doing here. Peace, love, and understanding.
Save your seeds. It doesn't take a miracle to cultivate the weeds.
You can't sell brownies, you can't sell pot, you can't sell Rice Krispies at Hemp Fest. Why? Because we know how to keep this thing going, and that will bring us down. We have an unprecedented amount of freedom here. No other city in the world, no other rally in America especially. I don't think any in the world is doing quite what we're doing. So please understand, we do not want to be the narcs, man.
We arrested our 20 millionth American on marijuana charges. Are you ready for 420? In the midsummer, the state of California determined that it would be missing $1.4 billion in taxes if we didn't legalize it in California. Probably 10 times that many nationally. We've helped almost 100,000 people in 8 states, get a medical marijuana permit. So that means they can legally possess, use, and grow medical marijuana. Medical marijuana is a great step forward, but it's not the end. What we need to do is end adult marijuana prohibition, restore industrial hemp, and help medical marijuana patients.
The man who started it all, Jack Herer.
Hemp will be the future of all mankind, or there won't be a future.
It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican, we're going to legalize marijuana no matter what happens in 10 years, because when 60% of the American public wants something, they're going to get it. Contact your legislators. Tell them, end marijuana prohibition. It's time to tax and regulate it. The more letters they get like that, the sooner the day will arrive. We're going to legalize marijuana!
Peaceful. Look at this. It doesn't have any. What if this was a drink fest? Alcohol fest, meth fest, heroin fest, cocaine fest. There'd be dead people here. There'd be fights. There'd be stabbings. But it's pot fest. It's hemp fest. We are proud. We are loud. Give me names. E-M-P. What do we want?
I freaking love Hempfest. Hempfest is the shit. Hempfest is badass. Go Hempfest!
September 12th and 13th, Portland, Kelly Point Park. Yay, please come. Everybody's welcome.
Bringing up LB Musica, one of the only living members of a government program. She gets marijuana from the federal government in the mail each year. LB, welcome to Seattle Hemp Fest, darling.
We're back! We're back! We're back! And I'm looking forward to the day we come back here to celebrate that laws at last are a thing of the past when it comes to our issue. I wish it was as simple as just going, waiting for the mail. No, unfortunately, they make me go to Florida at least once a year, hang out there for a month or two. It's at the height of winter. I don't mind that too bad. I get to pick up my marijuana grown in Mississippi. Cannot be mailed to me to Oregon. Even if I have doctors here, I have to go. Anyway, we're all working on so many issues all around the country. Rhode Island, of course, being the latest state that already has medical marijuana and has dispensaries, and they are very happy there.
Yes, they are.
We now have 15 states, and when these elections are over, no telling how many more. Also, there are several things going on with initiatives. In my state of Oregon, we don't have dispensaries. And it's hard to find your medicine when the mites get your grower's crop, or when for whatever reason you just can't be found. And then if you're traveling, think of the convenience of stopping somewhere. You got your card with you, you can stop and choose a medicine that will suit you for that particular part of your journey. It's all very wonderful that we get together. Now we got a good administration, and we got a Holder who we certainly have educated right here in Seattle, right? All these years from the Justice Department, he is handing out rules and making decisions for us. It's more important than ever that we get in touch with our legislators and see what we can do. Time for here. We definitely passed it in Oregon so that marijuana is a Schedule II, not a Schedule I drug. So that's against the lie that we are propagating from Mr. Nixon's time still on to now, and which could be wiped out with one executive order. Your president needs to hear from you. There are people trying to help, and Gasper on the radio has gotten Ed Rosenthal to finance a project in which some of the legal smokers and I will go to Washington with Marilyn Matrix, who's one of the co-founders of Patients Out of Time, and trying to explain to our legislators that we cannot continue to uphold this prohibition. It's causing too much pain, too much heartache. There are so many medicines right now that are being patented using parts or some of marijuana. Marijuana is medicine, and everyone knows that now. But the most exciting things that are going on, as Rick Simpson showed us at the beginning of this year with his tape, run from the cure. However, now there's a newer take that really goes into all the leads about cancer and cannabis, and there is no way to ignore this scientific evidence anymore. So we really need to present it and make it clear to our legislators. We need our health back. We don't need to have this many cancers. We need to have plenty of pure hemp seed oil like they do in Finland. And cancer is prevented because it leaves a coat protecting your immune system. Manitoba here makes wonderful non-narcotic hemp seed oil that we should also take. I am concerned about California and their new law. I would like to see changes. However, when it puts so many more restrictions on the bad laws we already have, making them worse, there's no way I could go for that. I'm sorry. Pay attention to what you're doing and keep it moving, keep it going strong. Remember that you are part of the largest majority of people, that's right, in the United States. There is no segment in your community that doesn't have pot smokers, whether you only hang out with judges, doctors, nurses, any other professionals, or whether you don't have a professional goal at all, but you're an entrepreneur and you do well with your life, or whether you're doing nothing. Chances are you know people who smoke if you don't smoke yourself. Okay, it's time for me to leave you, but I gotta remind you that as I travel, and I have done every state in the United States and several countries, the only opposition I ever find is from the pharmaceutical industries, the insurance industries, and most of all, the corrupt prison system. Somebody misquoted me and said the press. I love the press. They've always been good to me. It's the prison. Let the true spirit of love always be your guiding light. And I hope next year we come to celebrate. Thank you. Thank you, Vivian. Keep up the good work.
Healthy Musica, show your love. Gatewood Galbraith, come on up here, my brother man, all the way from Kentucky. To tell you some truth, this guy's been doing this longer than HempFest has been doing this. Give him some warm love.
Thank you very much, friend. Hey, thank you all. Listen, I hope you all remember that the theme of this HempFest is "This One's for You, Jack." This one is for Jack Hare. For a lot of you young folks out there, if it wasn't for Jack Hare, you wouldn't be here at this HempFest, because there wouldn't be a HempFest. Jack Hare is responsible for it. I'm going to take a couple of minutes to pay tribute to my friend Jack Hare, who passed this past several months ago. Here's my tribute to him. Jack Hare is a social and philosophical tsunami, the ripples from whose splash will forever grace the shores of human consciousness in every freedom-loving nation. He is the grand champion of we the people, and the natural cycle in our battle with the synthetic subversion which threatens the very concept of the sovereignty of each human individual. Jack's tireless efforts to eliminate the facts about cannabis have furnished freedom fighters everywhere with the tools of knowledge with which to resist the fascism of the corporate state as it seeks to subject everyone to its economic bottom line. Jack recognized that cannabis is a gateway to existentialism, which enlightens our existence and is the basis of our freedom of choice. He also recognized the miraculous healing powers of this herb, and many sick and dying people have found comfort in its use after reading his wonderful manifesto, "The Emperor Wears No Clothes." I am one of them. Jack Hare's grand spirit may have left his worn-out body, but he has entered into the hearts and minds of millions of us who will forever be grateful to have been educated by his commitment to the truth. God bless you, Jack Hare. The message that Jack and I have is that your younger generation are open to perils to which he and I never had to conceive. That there is a great move afoot to take you out of the property of sovereign human beings and put you into the property of the man. The man. The petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military, industrial, transnational, corporate, fascist, elite son of a bitches. Who see the Constitution and the Bill of Rights as impediments to the implementation of their New World Order and global economy. And they are not warm and fuzzy about you or me or our children or grandchildren. And they are afraid to give everybody in the rest of the world due process and constitutional rights. So in order to make it one world, they're going to take ours away. And the question of hemp, the question of cannabis, is the most vivid illustration of how this government has overstepped its bounds in policing the private behavior of citizens. When they told us we couldn't plant a hemp seed in the ground, they severed us from the natural cycle. That is what they seek to do. I call it the synthetic subversion, where they want to replace all the natural products on earth that used to be grown out of God's earth and God's seed, and replace them with synthetic products, and knocked our farmer out of the agrarian society and the agrarian market, and made the ghost towns of our small cities and villages across this country. We need to rediscover a cash crop, one that will allow our farmers to go back to the land, one that will allow our farmers to compete with the petrochemical pipelines. You plant U.S. 7% agricultural land in hemp, you will have to import another drop of oil. We can replace the spills in the Gulf. We can replace the environmental catastrophe that the petroleum pipelines have cast upon Mother Earth, and instead let our farmers grow hemp as a fuel crop. In 1991, Willie Nelson and I poured hemp oil into my Mercedes diesel and drove it across Kentucky in my bid for governor. That's why he started his biofuel plant. Listen, folks, you all have been handed a torch. Jack Hare, bless his soul, passed away. I'm getting old up here. You know, we cannot carry this ball much longer. You have to become educated. You have to learn the truth. You have to reach out there and grab the responsibility of maintaining your freedom. Every generation must re-win its own freedoms. And those very sacrifices, right up to the very last second I've been talking to you, made on your behalf, cannot continue anymore. What really counts is your all's commitment to what sacrifices you're willing to make in the future to maintain your freedom. And it's right there in front of you. I encourage you to learn the law. I encourage you to learn the political process. I encourage you to reach out there and take responsibility for your own freedom. Live your life like a warrior. God bless you all. Thanks for having me out here in Seattle.
Thank you. It's great to be here. HempFest, yeah. Well, I'm a travel writer. And for me, High is a place. It's a great place. It's a place where I can cook well. My speakers sound better. It's a place where conversations slither around like stray cats. Sometimes I want to go to that place, and a lot of people do. And our government says we can't go there. And today, 80,000 Americans who wanted to go to that place and went there are in jail in our country. Now, there are scenarios where I think it's okay for our government to say you can't go there. But there better be a good reason when my government says I can't go somewhere. And when it comes to getting high, I don't think there's a good reason for our government to say no. I believe that the mature, responsible, adult, recreational use of marijuana is a civil liberty. It is a civil liberty. Now, it's a drug. It's a drug, and I'm not promoting it. I acknowledge it's not healthy. It can be abused. It can be addictive. It's not for kids, and if you drive intoxicated by anything, they should throw the book at you. Yeah. But that doesn't get in the way from the principle that enjoying marijuana is a civil liberty. That's something we need to communicate to our society. Now, our government is waging a war against marijuana, a perpetual, never-ending, losing, expensive, demoralizing to our police force, eroding credibility to our teachers and parents war on marijuana. It's a war based on lies. It's a war that costs our society billions of dollars every year, and it's a war that messes up hundreds of thousands of American lives every year. This year alone, 800,000 Americans were arrested for enjoying marijuana. They've got a criminal record now. Now, I bring a European perspective to the discussion. I've spent a third of my life hanging out in Europe. with people who think that marijuana is about exciting as a can of beer. It's just not a big deal. Now, when you think about the European approach to drug problems, and they've got drug problems just like we've got drug problems, they measure their drug problems or the success of their policies on drugs not by how many people do you lock up, but they measure it based on a concept called harm reduction. This is a radical difference between our and their approach to drug abuse and drug problems. In Europe, they want to take the crime out of the equation and consider it a health problem and an education challenge. And my European friends tell me time and time again that a society has to make a choice: tolerate alternative lifestyles or build more prisons. And then they always needle me with that annoying little comment that, and in your country, the United States of America, you lock up more people than anybody else in the world.
Wow.
We lock up 8 times as many people per capita as Europeans do.
Wow.
Either we're inherently more criminal, or there's something screwy about our laws. And most of those people in our jails are in there on drug charges. Now, what shapes American policy on drugs? Fear. Fear is a huge thing in our society, and it's a big part of this war on drugs. Generations of reefer madness propaganda and lies have been designed to make people who have not paid very careful attention to this issue simply afraid of it. There's a lot of Americans who think there's a whole reservoir of people who would just love to ruin their lives with drug abuse if only it was legal. Now in Portugal, they legalized consumption of all drugs 10 years ago, and you know what they learned? More people don't use drugs. It's just no longer a crime. That's a pretty big revelation. A lot of Americans think that marijuana is a gateway drug. A couple of tokes and all of a sudden you're a heroin addict. Well, in the Netherlands, it's been 25 years since they've arrested anybody for smoking pot, and they've got a track record. They care about it as much as we do. And they've found that not many more people smoke marijuana, and not any more people are into hard drugs, and their hard drug taking population is aging. It's a successful thing when you take the crime out of the marijuana. Now, if marijuana is a gateway drug, it's only a gateway drug because it's illegal, because that means there's criminals on the street with a vested interest in getting you into marijuana so you can get into more profitable, more expensive, and more addictive drugs. The only thing gateway about marijuana is its illegality. Now, the United States is out of sync with the world, and we need to wake America up and tell them that there is a harm reduction approach to drug abuse that is more effective and pragmatic than locking people up. HempFest is a wonderful celebration of cannabis culture, but I'll tell you, we're never going to legalize things unless you guys mobilize. This is a great party, it's a lot of fun, but you got to go out there and make it not scary, and you got to get the truth through to people in the suburbs who are scared to death about this.
All right.
It's not scary. Now, we need to support advocacy groups with our money so they can wage our battle for us. I'm a board member of NORML. There's a lot of good groups. For 10 years I've been a board member of NORML, and I'll tell you, those advocacy groups that are fighting against the drug war or drug war in our country are not charities, they're services, and they're fighting your battle, and they're waging a courageous and dogged struggle in our state house and in our national government. We need to support them. We're at a crossroads right now in our society, just like we were in the 1930s when we were taking down the laws against alcohol. And courageous people are starting to speak out now, and it's an exciting opportunity. Mayor LaGuardia of New York in the 1930s said that if a society has a law on the books that it does not intend to enforce consistently across the board, the very existence of that law corrodes law enforcement and respect of the law in general in a society. That's a serious problem. We've got that today. There's no intentions of enforcing our marijuana laws. They're not going to lock up all of us. If they did that, tomorrow Seattle would be a much less interesting city. I'm a hard-working, kid-raising, church-going, tax-paying citizen of the United States of America, and if I work all day and want to go home and enjoy a joint, that's my civil liberty. This is not hard on drugs, it's not soft on drugs. I'm just trying to inject a little bit of European common sense and pragmatism. We need to see drugs as a health problem, not a criminal issue. And then we can move beyond hard on drugs and soft on drugs. We can be smart on drugs, all right? Thanks a lot. Thanks for being here. Have fun and happy travels, even if you're just staying home, okay? Hemp Fest. Thank you, Rick Steve.
I am extremely proud of our next speaker. Not only is the editor of the new edition of The Emperor Wears No Clothes and a presenting sponsor from THC Hempire Expo, but he also spent 5 years in prison for medical marijuana. We have the Peter McWilliams stage up here. He was Peter McWilliams' partner, got busted working with Peter McWilliams, and Rene Bourget, who was in Canada for years escaping prosecution here. He is a very good dear friend of mine and one of the most hardest working, intelligent activists I've ever met. Todd McCormick, give a hand for Todd McCormick. He spent 5 years in prison.
Wow, thank you, HempFest. You know, I want to say thank you very much to Vivian, who started all this 19 years ago and had the foresight to bring us where we are today. Because I don't know, if it wasn't for what HempFest is, if we would even have the consciousness of hemp in the world today. You know, HempFest, I say give yourself a round of applause because you're leading the world right now. You know, and I want to say thank you. I did do 5 years in prison, and like I just said to Vivian, after every HempFest, I would get hundreds of letters from people, and it would blow me away that so many people cared, not for me, but for some stranger that was representing something that they believed in. What we're really looking at, man, is that we got to support one another, and we're the community, and we're trying to make the change. And the only way we can make the world a better place is if we're nicer to each other. And when Vivian was just saying about trash right now, you know, the answer is obvious, bro. If everybody packed up a little piece of trash and threw it away when they got up, there would be none on the ground. You know, and if we cleaned up the problems of our ancestors, so to speak, people that gave these drug wars to us, like in '68, before a lot of us were even born, I think it's time to end the hypocrisy. It's time to change the world, and I think we can do that by resisting all of this. You know, Tim Leary used to say, turn on, tune in, drop out. And I think he was only kind of right. Because I think we should turn on, tune in, but take over. And change what we don't like. Be the change we want to see in the world. And you know what? When they came at me for growing marijuana, my own medical marijuana, because when I was a little boy I had cancer. I had cancer 10 times as a child. It totally sucked. But when I was 9, my mother thought I was dying, so she started giving me medical marijuana to use while I was going through chemotherapy and radiation, and it profoundly changed my life. You know, and it kind of drove me to the activist that I am today because I've always sought truth. And what we're all doing here today is a representative of that truth. What we're all trying to do is represent a reality that's been stolen from us and hidden from us. And, you know, as Vivian said, I'm now sadly, and I will say sadly, the editor of The Emperor Wears No Clothes, because Jack was like a dad to me, and he taught me all this stuff about activism, and I spent a lot of time on the road with him, and that book had such a profound change on my existence because nothing else in my history, when I went to class and I was in school, I thought this shit was so boring. It had no connection to me. And then Jack showed me that cotton wasn't the first fabric and that paper was invented 5,000 years ago using hemp. And that when Randolph Diesel made a diesel engine, he thought it would fit into our ecosystem. That the farmers would be able to plow the crops that made the fuel that pushed the machine that plowed the crops. And only in the last 100 years has these pharmaceutical companies and petrochemical companies come in and taken away our natural alternatives to things like medicine and things like fuel. And the only way we're going to change things is if we resist this shit and we take the power back. Really, it's ours, you know? HempFest is really a representative of this community, and this community could do this all the time. If we got together and put our heads together, we could end this drug war. We could end this hysteria. There used to be a time 100 years ago when you couldn't find hemp in every house, man. And you know, now you can't find it in any house because they've given us all these synthetic solutions that don't work. And the only way we're actually going to do this is if we do it. Break the law. Commit civil disobedience. And if they come at you saying, we're going to lock you up, say, good. You know, you locked up Gandhi, you locked up Martin Luther King, you locked up Rosa Parks, and at the end of the game, you look stupid for doing it. So go to prison. Don't be afraid to spend a few nights in a prison cell reading books, because you know what? Break the system. Literally, stand up against it, and when you're done with them, laugh and walk away. Since I got out of prison, I have helped Marijuana Policy Project throw 3 parties at the Playboy Mansion for marijuana. We've had Blues Traveling Play, and you know, and our whole point of doing that is because we're trying to get together all the artists and all these creative people, because we're not the stupid stereotype. We're not these morons that they want to make us out to be. You know, we're people that care, we're people that are conscious, we're people that are enlightened, we're people that are talented, and we got to break the stereotype. We got to stop acting like they want us to, which is to be scared and to be complacent and to do what you're told. So if anything I'm telling you from Hempfest stage is now, stand up for your rights, pick up a little bit of trash to show you care when you leave, and you know what, do what you can to make the world a better place, because one person can make the difference, and that person may be you. So thank you for coming to Hempfest. Thank you, Vivian. Thank you, everybody. Peace and love.
My brother Todd McCormick.
Who are some of your greatest inspirations in our movement? I mean, it doesn't have to be someone that's hemp related, but who gets you going?
Well, frankly, one of the best examples of a really valuable, committed activist that I know in the entire country is Vivian Peak, who puts this place on. I don't know of anyone who works any harder. It's all volunteer labor. He's done it for 20 years. He's had some health problems. Nothing holds him back. And it's the biggest marijuana protest in the world, and it's my favorite day of the year. It used to be 2 days, now it's 3 days, but my favorite trip of the year I look forward to. So Vivian would be somebody who stands out to show what one person could do. I don't want to be unfair to people. There's lots of people who have contributed, but I think the people that deserve the most credit right now are the people that are pushing us beyond medical use into full legalization. And so I really admire the efforts undergoing right now in Colorado, Washington, Oregon, California, and Massachusetts to get initiatives on the ballot to legalize marijuana in all 5 states.
Speaking in my official capacity as mayor, I have a message to all of you out there. Welcome to Seattle! You know, it's interesting. During my campaign, somebody asked me what my position was on marijuana legalization. And what I said was that if every politician and elected official who had ever tried marijuana voted to legalize it, it would be legal in an instant. And it's the truth. It is the truth, folks, that we have been, as a society, very hypocritical. And Rick Steves has spoken about this, and your prior speakers have spoken about this. So we live in a very complicated world right now where attitudes are changing. And that makes it harder on lots of folks. It makes it harder on people that want safe access to drugs. It makes it harder, you know, on parents who are trying to figure out what their kids to do, tell their kids what to do. It makes it harder on our police force too, by the way, and I'll talk about that in a second. It makes it harder, but there's a pathway here that'll make it easier. And that pathway is to recognize that prohibition as a strategy has not worked. The war on drugs has not worked. And we can do better. And we're in a time where attitudes are changing. Attitudes are changing, so we just have to keep diligently talking and explaining and being authentic to our friends and neighbor and our family members about this issue. And attitudes do change. And we can see attitudes change for the better. You know, on a number of topics. 20 or 30 years ago, you wouldn't even have spoken about the issue of gay marriage to anyone. And that's changed. 20 or 30 years ago, legalization seemed a distant, something way in the distance. And that's changed. Here in the city of Seattle, by popular vote, we went as far as we could go, which is that enforcement of marijuana laws for small amounts, the possession of small amounts is the lowest enforcement priority for our police. Lowest enforcement priority. But you know, on that, the people led. The people led and the politicians followed. Now, by the way, just do us a favor. Do us a favor. Lowest enforcement priority does not mean legal. Make life easier for everybody, including our police officers. Don't light up in front of them. Just make life easier for everybody, please. okay? But they take the law seriously. In the state of Washington, the people led again, and medical marijuana is legal under state law. Now those laws have changed, they've become more confusing, but the people led. And here in the city of Seattle, we're listening. And we're going to make sure that we do our best to observe that state law, protect the rights of medical marijuana, legitimate medical marijuana users, to safe access to medicine. It's not happening everywhere. It's not happening in every city, but it's happening in our city. Now, the problem is, of course, that our law at the city level, the laws at the state level, all exist in a world where it is still illegal at the federal level. And we can't change that from here with our votes. But we can change more state laws. People have spoken to you about initiatives. You know, I mentioned to you two things. The politicians followed because the people led. The initiative here in Seattle to make it the lowest enforcement priority. Medical marijuana. You have to keep leading. You have to keep leading. And I'll do my best as an elected official to lead too. I'll do my best as an elected official to lead too. But we need you to keep leading, because if we do that, we will make these laws make sense. We will make this community better. Thank you, all of you, for your work. Thank you.
The mayor of the greatest city in the world, Mayor Mike McGinn, show some love, man.
You like weed, do you? Make some noise, you like marijuana. Hell yeah. I'll roll a joint left-handed on a ski lift wearing gloves in a blizzard at night. You feel me? Right? If I was in a gang, this would be my gang sign. Who you roll with? Oh, I roll with everybody, dog. I'm not afraid. I haven't had a fight since 10th grade. Why would I fight you? I'm kind of funny. I got some weed. We can negotiate. Right? Don't get it twisted. I'll swell up to try to stop a fight. What? Did you see me in the parking lot later? Woo, shit, that was close. Marijuana has taught me a lot of things. It's made me a better cook. Right? Because I don't have any money, but I smoke a lot of weed. I will invent shit to eat. You feel me? If we got Bisquick and peanut butter, we got peanut butter rolls coming in 10 to 12 minutes. I looked in the pantry one time, we had marshmallows, margarine, and top ramen. I'm making ramen treats. Ramen, they were hella good too. I know y'all know what top ramen is. It's a room full of stoners, man. Sometimes you get a crowd, they don't know. I had to break it down to a crowd one time. I was like, well, y'all know cup of noodles, right? Well, I can't afford a fucking cup. I'm just trying to get old noodles. I know some of you want to laugh harder, but that second brownie just kicked in. That's the challenge with the marijuana food. You can't always time it. You can't always time your drugs, man. I'm not the only one here ever woken up sweaty and confused on an airplane. Where are you taking me? I gotta be careful. I love weed. You like marijuana? People say to me, I do comedy at a lot of clubs around the country. They're like, hey, you talk a lot about weed. And I'm like, shit, Eskimos talk a lot about snow. Talk about what you know, right? Eskimos got 40 different words for snow. There's at least that many different words for weed. You can make up words. As long as you use the verb twist or roll, you can say whatever you want. Hey, twist up a scuffdiffler. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You getting high as hell, damn near telepathic. I'm just glad you guys all made it outside, man, because I know you smoke a lot of weed. It's hard to leave the house. It takes 3 to 5 tries.
Thanks, Don. So I come from a very different Washington. I call it Mordor on the Potomac. You don't smell ganja in the air, you smell sulfur, right? And so it's a different political reality. I'm not going to talk about the politics of drug policy in the West Coast, much less in Seattle, where you have a very different world than exists in much of the rest of the country. But I want to talk about how politics gets done in the other Washington, and why it is that it's so difficult to get any kind of meaningful reforms initialized. And there is a dirty little secret in Washington. There's one discourse that goes on in public, and when it comes to voting time and all that stuff, and when the doors are closed, and I've been doing this for 13 years now, talking to members of Congress and their staff, when they're behind closed doors, the whispering starts. So what do you think about taxation and legalization and regulation and decriminalization? And I've heard this from Democrats and Republicans, conservatives and liberals, and they always talk about it like they're the first ones who ever raised that question. They're so deeply closeted in so many ways. It's kind of like going to a convention of closeted gay Mormons. They're all terrified that everyone else in the room will find out they're the same as everyone else. And so one of the things I'm trying to do is figure out how do you depolarize what has been traditionally a third rail, or the mother of all third rail political issues in politics. That is the drug war. Third rail, are people familiar with that term, third rail? It comes from the subway system, right? 2 rails carry the train. The third rail carries the high voltage. If you touch it, you're dead politically. So historically, third rail issues have been abortion, gay marriage, aid to Israel, gun control, Pentagon budget, and drugs and crime. And so what I'm trying to do is figure out a way to depolarize that third rail. How do you get politicians to say in public what they say in private? And in so doing, I think there's one technique. It's very counterintuitive that may work. And you could try this not just at the national level, but at the state and municipal level with associations, conventions, whether it's a convention of the chiefs of police or whatever. It's a way to help people come out of the closet slowly and dip their toes in the water. And that has to do with accountability. It's going to sound heretical, but I think there's too much accountability in Washington right now. And I think you might get more responsive policies if you had temporarily less accountability. What do I mean by that? Oscar Wilde once said, if you want a man to tell the truth, give him a mask. Is there a way we can give our politicians a temporary mask, a non-binding mask, where they can express their views as in a confessional without risk of being attacked outright? The Prime Minister of Luxembourg was talking about a different third rail issue at home, but he said, look, we all know what needs to be done, but we just don't know how to get reelected after we've done it. This is the problem, right? And the problem can be framed, I think Bart Simpson put it very well. When Bart Simpson ran for class president, he ran by attacking his opponent. And he said, my opponent says there are no easy answers. Well, I say he's not looking hard enough. That's the problem in Washington. People are looking for easy answers. Politicians think voters will only understand simple, short solutions. And if drugs are bad, of course you have to have a war on drugs. If you're broke, you can't have deficit spending. You can't have a stimulus package. It's counterintuitive to argue that you do the opposite might have a better effect. And so the way to do this then is to have a non-binding straw poll. That is to say, a procedural exercise for 10 minutes, no one will know how you voted. Your party leadership won't know, your constituents won't know, your funders won't know, the lobbyists won't know, the nonprofits won't know, no one will know. And for those 10 minutes, for the first time in Washington, you will have the ability as an elected official to think what is really in the best interest of the United States, of this generation, of the next generation, of 7 generations down the line. Whose job is to look out for the bigger picture and to temporarily put partisan concerns aside. And that would allow them then to come out of the closet and express their views anonymously. And as long as one person votes in the opposite way, then no one can know that it wasn't you that did that. And so it's hard to game this in any kind of cynical way, but it's a way to get temporary honesty. And what that does is that if you had a straw poll in Congress that was non-binding, because it has to be non-binding, because the Constitution guarantees that if 1/5 of the quorum present demands a recorded vote, you have to have a recorded vote with names and who voted yes or no. But if you had this non-binding straw poll, and it turns out that 2/3 of Congress or 3/4 of Congress thinks we ought to decriminalize or tax and regulate, then just having that aggregate number at the end, 2/3 or 3/4, gives members of Congress some political capital. They can then come out during the recorded vote and say, look, I'm just being courageous. I'm actually saying in public what most of my colleagues believe in private, and it's time we had an open and honest discussion about this. If they want to present that as being courageous, I'll let them have it. It's a coward's way out, but it's a way for them to come out of that closet slowly without risking attack. And that jumpstarts, it leapfrogs the conversation. It's a way of manufacturing a tipping point, right? So if you imagine if you had the National Conference of the Chiefs of Police, and you did this anonymous straw poll at the beginning of their conference, and it was announced that, 2/3 or 3/4 of the police chiefs here really believe that we've gone too far with the drug war. We need to reverse gears. We need to do some counterintuitive things and implement harm reduction, etc. That would really change the tenor of the conversation. But right now, they're all sitting up on here on the stage, closeted. And so it's a way for police chiefs, for other people in sensitive positions to come out of the closet. And that can really spark a different kind of conversation. It could save us years in terms of opening up the discussion. So that's what I'm going to do.
It's time to stop the rape of our freedom, the violation of our personal rights, our civil rights, our human rights. It's time to realize that the cannabis movement is a peace movement, the cannabis movement is a human rights movement, the cannabis movement is a civil rights movement. They've been laughing at us, they've been ridiculing us, they've been making fun of us, they've been denigrating us, they've been ridiculing us, they've been arresting us, they've actually killed many of us, they've shot many of us. They have stolen our children from us to be raised by foster parents that tell our children, oh, your parents are bad, your parents don't love you, your parents are criminals because they had a pot plant in the same house as you, and they're swilling their alcohol, and they're smoking their cigarette, and cigarettes kill 400,000 people every year. Alcohol kills 40,000 people alcohol kills 40,000 people from a toxic reaction and from disease. How many wife beatings? How many murders? How many rapes? How many suicides? How many car accidents from alcohol? How many millions of people die from alcohol every year? I want to know. I mean, it's a disgrace. And we're just talking about America. I mean, all over the world, how many people die? 40,000 people die from tobacco in America. What about the world? How many people die from tobacco, right? How many people die from marijuana in 10,000 years of use? Zero. Zilch. Nobody's ever died from a toxic reaction or an overdose of marijuana. You could eat, in 1988, the DEA administrative judge, Francis Young, thank you, bro, I had 4 hours sleep. Is this the National Stereo Underground? Oh, Valhalla has arrived. All right. You didn't know I was nervous, but I didn't think that the last band was going to show up. Anyway, this has been an incredible disgrace to our country. These laws are un-American. Judge Francis Young said that marijuana is one of the safest non-toxic therapeutic substances in the world. You can eat, if you eat 10 raw potatoes, did you know this? 10 raw potatoes could kill you from a toxic reaction. But you could eat 10 pounds of marijuana and you'll be sick as hell. And you'll be throwing up real bad and you'll be unable to walk, but you ain't gonna die. You can't die from marijuana. It won't kill you, man, because it's an incredibly beautiful, wonderful, loving, peaceful plant. It's a friendly, loving, healing herb. It's a herb. It's not even a drug. And they have lied and lied and lied and lied and lied to advance these disgusting laws that are enemies of justice, that are undermining a general respect for the rule of law among millions of young Americans that think, well, these laws all screwed up, so I shouldn't obey any law. And if, I smoked pot, they said it was terrible, and they were wrong, so I bet cocaine must be okay too, and I'll bet heroin must be okay, and I'll bet methamphetamine must be cool too, because they lied. They lied. They lied about pot, so they must be lying about heroin. They lied about cocaine. And how many people die from all that stuff, man? I mean, right now, while we're having a great time, there's somebody hiding in their closet smoking a crack pipe, man. Freaking out in the dark, hearing voices and shit. There's somebody smoking meth right now. Right now, man, probably within earshot of here somewhere, there's somebody shooting heroin. There's somebody's doing crack, right? And the drug war actually promotes that stuff. Do you know they spend more money putting people away for cannabis than for methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, ecstasy, all combined? 90% of the money spent in America for the drug war It's a war against cannabis users. It's not a drug war. Drug war. The pharmaceutical companies are selling billions of dollars worth of drugs. They spend $5 on the drug and they charge $500 and it kills you. And it's addictive and it's toxic and it ruins your liver and your kidneys and your brain. And they call it medicine, and they call our medicine, which has never killed anybody, drugs. Because the drug war is one big, ugly, rancid, pus-filled, infected lie. And they use that lie to destroy the lives of decent, wonderful, chilling brothers and sisters who are irie and who are cool. You know how many cool people are in prison getting prison raped by somebody, man, over pot? It's a disgrace. And that's why I'm willing to risk my life. When I say risk my life, I mean this is so stressful. I've just had 3 trips to the doctor, to the hospital, thinking I was having a heart attack, man, from anxiety attacks over HempFest. I have developed what's called premature atrial complex of my heart, skipping a beat stuff, because of the stress of Seattle HempFest. I'm not kidding, man. My ears ring every day of my life. My ears ring so bad that I'm a Buddhist, actually. I'm a Tibetan Buddhist. I can't go to the temple anymore, to the monastery, because it's silent. And my ears ring so fucking loud from being up here for 20 years, right, that I can't even do that because it drives me crazy. It's a sacrifice. And all of our staff members have been here for like 12 hours, 16 hours in the same sweaty shirt that they wore yesterday, because they get one staff shirt for a 3-day HempFest. And they got blisters. I have blisters all on my toes last night when I got home, and I'll be here till Wednesday picking up cigarette butts when we're out of here. We'll all be here for days after you're all gone. 90% of our staff will leave after tomorrow, and then maybe 100 of us will be here tearing all this down, packing it out. If we don't get everything out by Tuesday, $800 a day for every item left in the park every day. It's very intimidating. It's very scary, and we do it anyway because it's the right thing to do, because we're Americans and we love our country. I love America. I love this country, where you can have a HempFest because of our Constitution, our free speech, and our freedom of assembly. And we do it anyway, man. And we never know if it's going to happen. It's a total leap of faith. I'm like, my God, it's 3 days. What's going to happen? Are the volunteers going to be there on Friday? We're going to have a staff? Well, let's get this out of your way, man. We'll get that totally out of your way. Oh, you want it there? Oh, man, that's different. I could roll with you. I like that. So, anyway, I'm done preaching to y'all, man. I just want you to know the reality. That's my heart song. Because, you know, we're doing it. See, my brother. We're doing this, man, and it's crazy. But we're going to do it. And no matter what it takes. And when I signed the permit for Seattle HempFest, I'm going, oh my God, what am I doing? On the permit it says you will take full responsibility for everything that happens at Seattle HempFest. And I sign that bugger every year. And you guys have never let me down. I love you. The greatest audience in the world.
We got a very much of a Latin crowd here. Hay latinos aquí en la gente, pues. Hay poco latino. Poco latino, pues. Okay. All right, we got some here. Well, here's the deal, you know. Here we are in Seattle, in Washington, you know, and we know we have 17 states, 17 medical states in America, the United States anyway, this part of America, that are medical states. But what I'm here to talk about is the rest of the world. There's so much going on everywhere else, not just America. And the one thing we all got in common with all those guys everywhere else in the world is we love one thing: cannabis. Cannabis, yeah, cannabis. And we got one goal between us all, and that is to make cannabis legal. Let cannabis be free, and that's it. That's what brings us all together. Because, for example, in Spain, where I live most of the time, you can have 4 plants, 6 plants, whatever. It's not really secure exactly the number of plants you can, but it's written into the Constitution that you can grow cannabis. I think that's a good thing, you know, that's why I live there. Okay, and then in Austria, you know, Austria, where Vienna is, you know, you think that one little country in the middle of nowhere out next to Hungary? Well, you can grow clones there. I mean, one of my good friends grows 10,000 clones a week. And he's got one of the many clone stores there, yeah. 100% legal, 100% legal. And in Switzerland, things were going 100% legal to grow cannabis, God, for years. We used to grow fields, literally fields, 10 acres. They call them hectareas there. But, you know, for about a period of about 10 years. But now it's completely legal to grow 4 plants in Switzerland. So they kind of went backwards. But, you know, I'm just talking about serious legal growing. And then the Czech Republic, remember it used to be Czechoslovakia, and part of it was Czech Republic? It's legal to grow there too. And by the way, cannabis is decriminalized. Israel, any Jewish people here? Any Israelis? Yeah, okay. This is good. Israel is one of the best places for growing medical cannabis in the world. Israel, and you wouldn't think of it. Of course, we all know that Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, a Jewish fellow, Israeli, he was the one that discovered THC, and he also discovered the cannabinoid receptors. In Russia, my first book is now coming out in Russia. It's on the boat right now, coming from China to America so we can ship it to Russia. Anyway, it's still illegal in Russia, but they're growing all over the place. Argentina, this winter I go to Argentina. I go to Chile, Peru, Peru, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Brazil. And all 3 of those, well, everywhere but Brazil, cannabis is legal. It's decriminalized. Now you can have up to 20 grams. That's 2/3 of an ounce. So, and then even in Mexico, where I went to school, it's you can have 5 grams legal. So the one thing we got all in common is this cannabis, and these guys in the other countries have done a better job of legalization than we have. And we're leaders here in America. We've already shown, I don't know if any of you guys ever see my 10-pound plant video. It's on YouTube. Just type in Jorge Cervantes in YouTube. You see that? You see this big video of 10-pound plants. We already teach everybody how to grow 10-pound plants. And so they're looking for some leadership from us. We've got to make cannabis legal in America, in the United States. And that's what I have to say. Thank you very much.
Live on the 10th. So thanks for watching. Mr. John Cornette's about to play. Tune in next time and help us restore hemp.
Some folks like tomatoes, some like rhubarb pie. I like when my vegetables get me a little high. May not be for everyone, may not fit your needs. Just incredible edible vegetable, more than just a weed. Credible, ooh, edible, ooh, vegetable. Edible, ooh, vegetable. We use our weed for medicine, but sometimes we get high. The vegetable can heal disease. It's a truth we can't deny. May not be for everyone.